do you know that you can still be held liable and face civil charges even if you've used your firearm in an act of self-defense and it's already been proven that you were acting in good faith and self-defense? That's what we're going to talk about today, because the family of 3 individuals is suing a homeowner because he used his gun in self-defense. There are things that you really need to know as a gun owner and things that you have to prepare for ahead of time, because if you do it too late, you're going to be on the wrong side of this. And again, you can be held liable even if your self-defense case is justified. PSA to all of us, I'm also going to tell you one of the most important things that still, in my opinion, isn't talked about enough that you have to have. Like, no exceptions as a gun owner. We're going to talk about that as well. So I want to get y'all's opinion. God forbid you've been in a situation like this. We'd love to hear your stories, right? If you can share those, if you want to share them. If not, that's okay too. But just let me know your opinion on this story as well. Now, first thing I got to say here is I am not a lawyer. Right? I'm going to tell you the facts as I know them, what we understand right now, but also one of the most important things as a gun owner is knowing the laws in your own state. This is something that you have to seek out for yourself. No legal advice here, but we want to talk about what happened in this Georgia home. This is important where it happened too, actually. So this happened back in January when 3 teens that were 15, 16, and 18 ended up kicking down the door of this homeowner, and they fired the first shot on this homeowner. He returned fire and ended up taking all 3 of their lives. I think one was immediate, where they announced him, and then the 2 others later passed on at the hospital. Now, you may have seen this video floating around, right? All 3 of them had masks on, and it was clear their intentions weren't just to come over and give the guys some cookies and see if they could help him out with something. They actually wanted to rob and or do harm to this gun owner. Well, the police did their investigation. They found that this gun owner acted in self-defense, and that was legitimate, and they decided not to press any charges against him. One thing I will say, this is kind of a side note, cameras, if you're a gun owner, pretty much everybody, but especially if you're a gun owner, get cameras. They will pay for themselves at some point. Super important. That allows us to see what happened here, right? Now, this happened in Georgia. This is very important because this is actually a stand your ground law state, meaning you have no duty to retreat. If you believe yourself or somebody around you, your family, is in imminent danger, you have no duty to back away, to walk away, to try to get away. Your duty is to protect yourself and the ones around you, and you can use force, including deadly force. The key there is using the necessary force. Why would this homeowner believe that these 3 people, by the way, he probably has no clue that they're teenagers. How the hell would you know they're wearing a ski mask? But even if they're not, why would he think that they're there to do anything other than to cause him harm when they're trying to kick down the door? Whether they fire a shot or not, I would say at that point, he probably was going to be found to have acted in self-defense. You can make a good case for that, especially with that camera present. Having the stand your ground law, even like in South Carolina, right? There's a statute that will civilly protect you against any kind of lawsuits if you are found that you acted in self-defense and it was justified. The problem is this kind of falls all on the judge, and they don't always see the Second Amendment as a constitutional right like a lot of us do. Or they may fear blowback from the community if they decide to give you immunity. So that's essentially what you have to do. You have to file for a motion for immunity, essentially saying that you should not go to trial because you are protected by the state law. Now, a judge should never do that, but they do face political and, of course, retribution from the community in certain cases. We've seen that before too. Maybe they say, oh, well, you filed too late, or you cited the wrong statute. So now you have some technicalities there that could arise. Maybe they say there's insufficient evidence to believe that you acted in self-defense, or they say your force was unnecessary, comparable to the crime committed. Or maybe they said that you escalated it. Whatever the reasoning, it is not automatic for you to receive this immunity. Castle Doctrine is another huge part of this. Pretty much every state in the Union has a form of Castle Doctrine. I think 38 have a stand your ground law. But Castle Doctrine, like in South Carolina, says that you can't be held civilly liable if you use your firearm in justifiable self-defense. But again, this just does not always cover you. There's not always a camera to prove it. And hell, in this situation, there is a camera that can prove exactly what this guy is saying, and yet he's still gonna face these charges. Now, I don't know about you, but it gives me a headache thinking about all of the freaking possibilities. The last thing I want to be doing is worried about what legal loopholes somebody can use after you just went through the mental trauma of using your firearm. A lot of people don't talk about that. That's a huge thing. PTSD is a real thing. Why do you think so many veterans actually suffer with that? This isn't something that we are inherently designed to do, right? Taking somebody else's life, that's a big deal. That's why pretty much all of us, well, maybe not all of us, but most of us say that we never want to be put in that situation. So you're dealing with the mental stress. You might be losing time from work. You might be losing money. You've had your firearm probably taken away from you because of this whole investigation, and who knows if you'll ever get that back. And now you're facing potentially tens of thousands of dollars being paid out, maybe more, because you use your firearm in a justifiable way. And I'm gonna tell you, one of the biggest things as a gun owner you have to do is concealed carry insurance. This has come up more and more and more. I've been talking about this since 2015, I think is when I made my first video talking about this. It is a huge deal. Now, recently, I decided to make the switch. A lot of you guys know which company I was using before, and I'm just going to tell you that I decided to go with attorneys on retainer. I think they are the best option, and here's why. I don't want to be worried about legal loopholes. If I'm paying for a service, I want to make sure that I get those services rendered, not depend on the company to do the right thing, or maybe they don't. Maybe they find a loophole in that little small print that everybody, or nobody looks at, I should say. I want to know that I got somebody on my side 24/7, 365 days a year. God forbid this situation ever comes up. And these guys do that. They focus solely on self-defense cases. They focus solely on defending you in self-defense cases is maybe a better way to say it. They cover every single state, including DC. They're doing civil liability. They're also doing red flag law cases, I think up to 15,000 in that. They're also doing expungement for people as well. All of these services come along with my membership to them. From the time you need that first phone call, which is super important, they're going to have people there to tell you what to say and what not to say, because that's probably most important. Legal counsel, all right there in your state from start to finish. Even money to replace the firearm you had to use in self-defense. That's pretty amazing. But the other things are what other companies wouldn't dare to cover, right? Gun-free zones. Maybe you're in a state where they tell you, oh, you can't have that many rounds in your gun, and you did. And now that state or that prosecutor says, oh, well, you were actually breaking the law because you had too many rounds in your gun, because we arbitrarily come up with that number because we think it makes the public safer. It is BS. They cover a lot of things that other companies wouldn't dare, and they actually put it right there on their homepage in things they cover. I refuse to have to worry about a service that I paid and for them to kind of squirm out of it. I have no interest in that, so I signed with attorneys on retainer. I actually became one of their armed affiliates, which I'm super proud to actually be a part of. So I'm gonna leave a link and a code down below that you can actually use in order to sign with them as well. This is a commission thing, so I do get a small commission if you sign through my link using my code, and you get the benefits of having a company actually have your back when you need it the most, not looking for ways to get out of representing you, but to make sure they're there from start to finish. In these self-defense situations, you think you've heard it all. You think it's cut and dry, even though I think you should have cameras and as much evidence. There's so many legal loopholes, right? I don't know if I could ever be a lawyer. There's just too much to keep up with. I know like a fraction of it, but there's a lot, right? And so depending on the state that you're in, depending on the prosecutor, right? How hard do they want to go at you? And honestly, it looks better, and it's probably going to pan out a little bit better for you if you are in a pro-gun state, but that's not always the case. But for example, do you think the Zimmerman trial would have went the same way if it happened in California or New York or Massachusetts? It's hard to say, right? This is just an educated guess, but I would say probably not. There was a story up in New York where a man used an AR to protect his home, and he is facing charges criminally and civilly. Here's the other thing that might not be talked about enough, but it definitely needs to be brought to light. This whole concept of shooting to wound can actually land you in additional legal hot water. Actually, it could ruin your entire self-defense case. Morally, it sounds better, but think about it like this. Shooting to wound, or in a knee or a leg, first of all, under adrenaline, good luck hitting that shot, especially somebody moving, right? Moving towards you, whatever, right? That's a difficult shot for anybody when your hands are shaking, adrenaline's pumping, all of that. But also think about deadly force, right? What's the reason that you felt like you had to use that force? Because your life is in imminent danger. So using deadly force is what kept you alive. That's the whole reason that you use that force. By the way, wounding somebody in the leg, it may not just be a wound, it could still actually take their life. But you're going to aim for the area that is easiest to hit, because if you're in fear of your life, you're trying to stop, not wound, but stop that imminent threat. If you shoot to wound, and God forbid you actually say something stupid like that, which is again why you need somebody on your side from the beginning, yeah, your whole self-defense case might go down the toilet there, because they can use it against you. You weren't really in fear of your life. And I'll end with this, and it's totally worth it that you go through all this, because remember, gun owners are still the foundation to keeping this nation free and secure. Never forget it. You are definitely a part of that. That's my opinion, though. Let you guys give yours down in the comments. If you have any situations that you've been in, we'd love to hear them. I take a lot from those comments and stuff, and just whatever your opinion is on this case in particular. I have no idea where it's going to go from here, but again, it's a reminder to all of us, some things you really need to account for. Let me know what you think down below. If you like what I do, consider subscribing. See you in the next one, and as always, hold them down.